Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we will talk about how AI is reshaping admissions. I'm Enrique Dutra, Director of Product Marketing here at Lead Square, and I will be your moderator today. Thanks for joining us. And just before we start, just to give some more time for folks to join, a few quick housekeeping notes. We will share the recording with you after the session. We will be running a couple of short posts during the conversation to get your input, so please we encourage you to participate. And finally, we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions into the chat as we go. Perfect. So today I'm joined by two fantastic speakers. First, Samantha Cormaster, Director of Member Partnerships at CQ, representing over 1,300 career education campuses across North America. And also Sterling Simpson, VP of Business Development at Enrollment Resources, a company that works with over 130 career schools in North America, helping them to improve enrollment outcomes through smarter lead generation and conversion strategies. So welcome to you both. Again, thank you so much for joining us, for taking the time. And before we jump into the first topic, could I ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves and share a little about your role? Samantha, let's start with you, then over to Sterling.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. So as Ray said, I am Samantha Cormaster. I'm with CQ and their new Director of Member Partnerships. Probably can stop saying that here soon. I started in January with the association, though I worked very closely with them for the last 5.5 years in a previous role as the marketing manager with MDT Marketing. As the Director of Member Partnerships, though, my main role is to work with our allied members, such as Lead Squared and Enrollment Resources, to make sure they get the most out of their membership, give them opportunities to connect with our education members, and just kind of, again, keep the community communication going and thought leadership going for professional development. So that is kind of my story. So since Sterling, I'll head it over to you.
Thank you, Samantha. I'm Sterling Simpson, VP of Business Development and Enrollment Resources. I've been here since 2012, and in that time, I've had many roles. I managed Google Ads, website optimization, as well as now I'm VP of Business Development. But in that role, I've done a lot of admissions training and coaching. I've trained over 100 schools in admissions and really focused on optimizing the career education admissions funnel.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's start with our first segment, the AI opportunity in admissions. We all know that admissions teams are always under pressure to scale, more prospects, but always fewer resources. So let's start with the big picture here. How do you see AI helping institutions handle that scale without losing personalization? What is kind of like the biggest AI opportunity for admissions right now? Who would like to go first? Maybe you can start with Samantha.
Sure. So one of the big things that I've seen a lot of the the admissions teams using AI is actually for processes. So I've had a couple of people that use Scribe for, again, building out the processes and training, so they don't have to constantly recreate them. It's easy to grab, do the screen grabs and everything like that. So you just have a general SOP that you can just hand off to everybody. It's really handy when you're bringing on a team of admissions reps, especially new ones, and you don't want to miss anything. When you're constantly training someone, that's something that could be a real heavy lift to remember to, explain everything to everybody because you feel like you've already answered that question before, and it's actually the first time they've ever asked it. So those are usually a really helpful tool. One other thing too that I've seen is there's a new company that I've come across in the space that offers it's AI that analyzes the phone calls for admission reps. And so it'll sit on the phone call with you, record it, and kind of give you notes afterwards to help with coaching. So again, this helps with the poor directors of admissions who wear many hats most of the time in a lot of our schools, and that coaching. And a lot of times you don't want to ask questions too if you're new. Sometimes you're a little shy about that. So to have this AI be able to help you coach through some of the, maybe hiccups that you've made on the call to kind of help make you better at what you're doing and connect with those students. So I think those are some really good ways for them to kind of help out with that. I know Sterling, I'm sure have a ton that you can offer.
You covered a bunch of the good ones. And one thing I have experienced is the AI coaching, and it's amazing. Um, Not only can it tell things like what to improve upon, or you could put in your own different sales techniques, and it could compare against that. But also, you could see like in the calls when you're doing certain things, and it'll tell you like when the low is or high is. So that's been amazing. One area that I really like to focus on is using the AI for more customized and dynamic outreach. The more we learn about someone, the more we could use the AI to not only customize the initial outreach, but could customize the full funnel, every outreach, as well as having unique scripts, and all that could be all dynamically done based off what you collect and how the AI could parse it for you, and then give the student a more dynamic experience that'll be specific to them.
Perfect, perfect. And we talked about, voice calls, the AI coaching, but is there anything specific that you feel like institutions are wasting effort today that could be easily, streamlined by AI?
Sterling, did you want to
Well,
take that one?
yeah, sure. Well, one of the main areas is like the first point of contact. So chatbots are getting much better. AI agents, even like the AI admissions agents, which will call you, all those things are getting better. They increase speed to contact to give people information quickly. And if it's set up well and you're collecting the right information, you can give them, again, dynamic information that'll meet their needs. One of the main things I always say is just let people know they're engaging with AI. It really helps, and it brings down any barrier or any of the uncanny valley someone might come across if you don't tell them in advance. And I find nowadays people are more accepting than ever to deal with AI agents, talk to AI, get answers. And quite honestly, they can do a really good job of answering questions now, which even like your best rep sometimes might not be able to as in the moment or as well as they can.
I'm sure it will come up later when you're using these tools. I know we've talked about it several times in conversations about AI. It's just that human oversight with something like a chatbot. A lot of people think if it's a closed system that it won't hallucinate, but I've heard a lot of stories where it still does it. Like if you give them a specific, here's the document you need to read and pull the information from, it will still come up with information that is not accurate. So it's always something you want to play with and make sure that you're on top of to constantly be reviewing those chats and making sure that that's still coming out accurately for you. I know when AI first came out, oh my gosh, I don't remember now how long ago that was. It's been a blur because it came out and it came out fast and so hard. That it was just ridiculous. It was implemented so quickly in a lot of different areas and really pushed to be implemented. But there was a story about an airline that ended up getting sued because their AI chatbot hallucinated and gave the wrong information to a customer. So again, just something for a highly regulated space like ours, we want to make sure that that is something that is constantly, I'm sure mentioned again, just to
Yeah.
be on
Yeah.
the
I remember that story. I think that the AI created a new policy for the airline out of nowhere. I remember that.
yeah.
It's actually a great segue for the next section. But before that, I'd like to bring the audience in here with a quick poll. So first, want to give a shout out to our tech and marketing guru that's working backstage, Richie. So if you can just pull up the poll for the audience. And we're going to share all the results at the end. Perfect. And you can choose as many as you want. We're going to share the results later. Okay, so for the next section, let's talk again. We just talked about this, but let's talk about boundaries, where AI belongs versus where humans must lead. We all know that AI can do a lot, like we're just talking about. But when we're dealing with something as personal as choosing a school, for instance, there are clear lines, right? So where should AI step in and where must humans always lead? For instance, can AI ever handle initial student conversations effectively, for instance? Or does it always, risk feeling impersonal? What do you guys think about that?
I would lean more on those for keeping the human connection, it's going to be really essential when it comes to like, okay, of course, like in-person tours at the school, right? A lot of our schools have amazing campuses with very hands-on pieces that really excite the incoming students. And so, of course, you have to keep that human touch there. And then certain difficult, like ethical conversations. So, like if they're having a hard time with like family support or financial aid or something like that, that's something that I feel like AI will really kind of miss the bucket on that one. It's not quite there yet. Maybe at some point down the road it will be, but I really feel like it's just easier to be human on human on that one. And of course, just a holistic evaluation is a big piece too. Some again, just I feel like I have all the horror stories, but AI can tend to be a little bit more biased depending on what information you've given it. And even if you haven't given it any, I think the information that's out there can lean one way or the other. So our schools are very much well known for having a very diverse background and really helping the underserved. So I know that there was a stat that we've shared in presentations that's 53% of our schools are 53% of our students are underserved. So that means they're like Black, Native American, I forget what the other ones are at the top of my head, but they, again, are part of that group. And so that's something that you want to make sure that no applications are being scored by that and being kind of kicked out of the system. But that's one of the areas I would definitely probably keep a really good human involvement in that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Anything else?
yeah, I agree with that too. Especially like right now, it's not there yet. In the future, it may be, but it just doesn't have that empathy and can't do those things that are extremely beyond just like dynamic, but not numbers, right? Not crunching information. It could be there, but at this point, I 100% agree with that.
I think you're on mute, Henry.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Actually, I just got an update here from my IT saying that they need to deploy some OS updates, so I might get shut down in some time. But I'll let you guys know. But just a follow-up
We'll just keep
question.
it going. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, there's a countdown here. I have 13 minutes, but it's gonna take probably like a couple of minutes to get back. But just a follow-up question to this: is there any framework that schools should use to decide what to automate and what to keep counselor driven? Anything that you can, any strategies, anything that seen that really works?
Oh, one area that like what I really like to focus on is the metrics. So if you know your admissions funnel and you know how well you are moving through people through the funnel, and you know all your numbers in there, and you compare that against the best practices of the industry and find out the areas you deviate from best practice the most, and that's the most low-hanging fruit to improve from. And so I implement in those steps of the admissions funnels first where you can, and it doesn't have to take over a step. You just use elements of it within that step. So you aren't losing personal outreach, just using it to scale or help in those areas. Could be very valuable in speed to contact, which is one of the biggest areas where schools can improve, but also could be used in increasing show rates for appointments by providing people better agendas, more information that helps them give them information they need to actually show for that appointment, give them the what's in it for them in a way that would resonate better than something that wasn't dynamic, that's more generic. So yeah, that's first thing I do is just benchmark your admissions, find out where you deviate from best practices and where the low-hanging fruit or the gaps are for you to improve.
I
Perfect.
definitely suggest, just from, again, a top level at a school is that the top, departments get together and decide where AI is going to be used. Not just in admissions, but all across the school, and really discuss like where do we want to use it? How do we want to use it? How do we keep a control on it and keep that human? And again, put a SOP together on your AI process and what you're doing with it. That I think would be again just something that from the top down, then what everybody would know. This is what we're doing. This is how we're using it. And this is how we're encouraging our students to use it even on that front. Because I know that's a big piece that the education field was really one of the ones that were slowest to kind of, there's a lot of fear in the education space on students cheating with it and stuff like that. And I think we've definitely grown past that a lot, especially in the career education space, and seen the benefits of it. So, but that's definitely something I would highly suggest people kind of put a team together, put a little task force together inside of your school to kind of sit down and hash out how are we going to use it, how do we want to keep it so that we're not putting any information out there that we don't want to put out there.
Perfect. Now, this is a great discussion. Let's check in with the audience again with another poll. Richie, if you don't mind sharing, we're going to ask which area should always, have the human touch. I think that's also very important for us. So just let's give them some time, but we can move forward. Let's talk about some practical use cases right now to make this more, tangible. We know that institutions are testing different AI tools every day. I wanted to ask you guys, what have you seen that really works? We already talked about a few things, but in terms of, real case scenarios, Samantha, maybe you can start with, what's happening among CQ members, and then Sterling, you can share from your work with schools, if that works.
Yeah, I'm just being out and about with some of our allied members, even with some of our school members. I work very closely. I'm a pretty good friend actually with Dina Hutton, who works for Southeastern, and she was the one that turned me on to Scribe. There's another one, so that's the one that helps with building out procedures and grabbing the screen grabs and helping with training materials and stuff like that. Gamma is another one that I've had a lot of people tell me is absolutely amazing. I have not been able to play with it yet. It's one of those things I don't make a lot of presentations, but Gamma is one that can help with presentations. So if you're making a lot of presentations, for the classroom or for just again trainings and stuff like that, that's one that you can put in a little information, and with 5 minutes you kind of have a nice starter set for a couple different slides and stuff. Claude is one that we use with at CQ actually, and I know a couple of our school actually use it as well for their social writing. So that's a good one for again building out social media and stuff like that. Notebook LMN is the other one that I have heard about, not played with, but it sounds amazing. I've heard people put information in there, and it's made a podcast for them. It's done kind of video stuff for them, created songs for them. So definitely one that I'm looking to check out, but I have not yet. But I know that a couple of our again members are playing with that.
Awesome. Sterling, do you have any other examples that you could share?
Not with specific, you named like all the big ones there, but
Still all thunder.
More with regards to like what's being done, because right now with the lead scoring that you can do with all the new platforms, we're able to take not just specific actions, but you can take psychographic and demographic information that could be collected, even stuff as far as pulling like the referring URLs and stuff to know where people came from. And you could use that for prioritization of reach out plus dynamic reach out. So different people could be scored differently and get different type of reach out based off how they score. So again, it could be more unique to their experience or to meet their needs. It's just all about implementing. It's something you have to be very careful with. It's just like a ton of work has to be done. Everything has to be checked, all the checks and balances. You don't want something to be half baked in the scoring and throws everyone off or puts someone in the wrong direction. So that's the biggest thing, is always having like the oversight to make sure that every T is crossed, I's are dotted, everything is done so that there's not going to be anything that falls through the cracks or gets erroneously scored.
Perfect. Awesome. If we have the chance to talk a little bit about, the future, about your vision for what's next. I know this is very still out there. It's very hard to put in objective ways what can happen. But looking ahead, what do you think admissions will look like in the next 5 to 10 years with the AI in the mix? Samantha, we can start with you again. What does the future look like when it comes, to predictive scoring, for instance, in admission, and the role of, since you talked about human oversight?
I always have a hard time when someone asks about like what's the future look like when it comes to AI and the technology side of things. It grows so fast, And I think one of the things that, one point I do really want to make sure I make on something like this is that we'll be busier.
Mhm.
Career schools will be busier because the AI is not coming for our students' jobs. Our students, AI so far can't drive a truck. I mean, I know we have some that are out there, but they're not perfect. And we still need, what I think it was like, last time I knew it was like 70 or 80,000 jobs are open for truck drivers right now. And AI clearly is not filling them for us. And even if it eventually got, like, AI is also causing jobs then for data centers. You need the IT people to come in and help with managing the data centers that the AI needs to run. I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about the environmental impact that AI has because of the data centers. And I know that here in Kentucky, where I'm based, there was a data center proposal put in, and the neighborhoods didn't want it there because they're like the light pollution and the heat it produces and stuff like that. And I find it very interesting that we'll be looking at kind of the growth of it and how it's going to impact us. But I know at some point we may have avatars that are speaking to our students who are answering those frequently asked questions for admissions so that they can actually focus on that relationship, that, you know, that actual genuine encouragement that they a lot of our students really need. Because they don't have it at home. So I feel like that's definitely something to look forward to in the future, is again that making it a little bit more human centric, and expanding that.
Definitely. And I feel it's really hard to talk about the next 5 to 10 years when we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 months. Like some of this tech is already.
Seriously.
Mhm.
That's very common. Sterling, before I move on to you, I'm trying, because I'm seeing this countdown here. I have 4 minutes before my system reboots. I'm gonna try to join from my phone. So if you have any background noise, that's why. But before that, Sterling, what do you see in terms of, exponential growth opportunities through AI today?
Well, yeah, AI is not only going to get more personal and better at doing things. Like we can't predict 5 years out, like you said, not in 5 months. But we'll probably get to that point, just like Samantha was saying, where there'll be AI agents that will be, able to do, or admission agents that will be full AI and be able to do a lot of stuff. But what I'm actually I'm a numbers person. So I'm more excited about the capability of AI for forecasting and taking predictive models. The one thing that I find that AI is exceptional, and I don't see it getting any worse at, is data. Just like taking data, as long as it's good data, it's clean data. That's the most important thing. What you put in, if it's good, what will come out will be great too. So it could be excellent for many different elements of forecasting in admissions, prioritizing, all that type of stuff. And it's going to just get better and better. It's going to learn more and just get greater at that. So for me personally, I'm just really excited to see what will come out of that part of it, what type of analysis you can do. And yeah, it'll really be supercharged over the next few years without a doubt. With regards to the actual admissions handling, like reps and becoming dynamic like that, it's so close to there, but there's always that oversight, and that's, I think, will always be there even when it gets extremely smart and it does so much. There's always going to need some oversight. There's going to need to be checks and balances, because at this point we can't, the hallucinations happen, and the only way to prevent that is more and more data, and being able to have it consume more and more. But it eventually starts to hallucinate because it compresses the data it's collecting, and we haven't found a way around that. The only solution is more and more at this point, and that isn't scalable. So something's going to change, hopefully, so that stops. But that's still always a concern if you let AI do things unchecked or give it too much autonomy.
That's amazing. I totally agree. And still on that note, one thing that are you getting some echo?
Hmm.
No, oh, perfect. Okay. So still on that note, like I said, it's very hard to predict, the next 5 years, even the next 10 months is hard. But what should institutions today be doing right now to prepare for this change? You talked about the data aspect, guardrails, GDPR, but in your opinion, what's the only thing or a few things that are available today to prepare for this unpredictable future? That's hard, but what's in your mind?
I will just jump in and say, start playing. start playing with it. Again, like I mentioned the whole, again, putting like a little force together at the school and kind of been starting from the top down. But if you're, everybody else is just too busy and they just can't get to it and they don't see the benefits of it quite yet. And you do just start. Get ChatGPT open, start, helping it, rewrite some of your emails or something and be like, hey, can you shorten this for me? Or, can you make this sound more professional and stuff like that. Just simple things like that is it's just something to jump into and get started and get familiarized because it takes a lot of practice, even with some tools like ChatGPT that have been around for years now. It's just shocking. But it's so amazing how much better and better you get at playing with the prompts. Because as Sterling said, as much of information you put in, the better that information is on giving it guide rails, the better information you're going to get back. So that's definitely something I would highly encourage anybody. Just get started, just jump in, start playing with it, and just remember, like again, don't just read it. Don't just take it and copy and paste it. It's read through it. Is it still your voice? Is it still saying what you really need it to say? That kind of stuff. Because I don't know how many times I use it all the time for emails. I'll use it for social and stuff like that, different programs. And there's days where it's great. It's amazing. I can pretty much almost copy and paste it directly after giving it a couple prompts. But there are days where I'm like, I'm just going to give up. I'm going to go write it myself. It's fine. We're moving on. So it has its own good and bad days, apparently. But that's definitely something I would say is just get started.
Perfect. And how do you keep up with, there's a lot of tech and a lot of new tools out there. How do you keep up with everything that's happening? Any recommendations on, things to read, research, white papers, anything you could recommend as well?
I guess I'll just jump down on that one. I will just say again, yeah, look to your peers, ask your peers, start networking. There's a lot of events happening right now. I know Sterling and I were just talking before the webinar started about our conference schedules. And but it's the best place to network with people who are in our space and say, hey, are you using AI and where are you using it? Are you seeing success with this? How did you start? That's the best place. I know that CQ put together, we had a task force that was put together by Mitch Talenfeld and Stephen Arthur and Dana Hutton. That they put together, I don't even know how many experts, there's a lot, but they put a bunch of experts together from our space that included education members along with allied members from the CQ community and put together a guide to kind of help facilitate those conversations, to help you start jumping in the correct way. Put a lot of guardrails in there. They do specify very specifically, though, that is not any kind of advice from like a lawyer or anything like that. But they did have lawyers as part of the team, which is kind of essential. And I know Sterling mentioned it before. Just make sure you let everybody know that you're actually using AI on certain things. It's very, very helpful. Sterling, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I find exactly what you said, like about getting started too. Like ChatGPT is free. Just use it and even use it for home life stuff. Learn how to use it. Ask it for things like your grocery list or where to go. Give you directions. What's the best way to plan a day? This basic stuff you might not even use it for. You learn how it works. And one of the things in a school, like you mentioned earlier, Samantha, is testing with emails is an easy thing to do. And what I recommend, if the first thing you can do even before getting into anything sophisticated is rewrite a few of your emails that are automated, they're going out a lot, and just make a few differences, ask it how it could improve it, and then track the performance. Do split testing with that against your current emails, and you will learn things. If you make one change that you ask it to make, then you'll learn what specifically improved your performance, and then you can make another change and constantly test different emails. It can be done in almost any stage of admissions, like text, scripting. It's actually pretty good for helping with scripting. You give it the parameters, what you want to do, the goals, and it can give you some great scripts or workflows if the teams don't like verbatim scripts, a nice workflow to tell you what direction to go when presented different answers. So yeah, I just find getting in there and playing with it, even if you have children, have your kids play with you, do things with the AI images. It's really fun, and you'll learn a few things too, just how to query it, how to get what you want out of it better. And you could upload spreadsheets into it, so you could give it data sets of information, ask it for its analysis, and it's pretty good. It's not 100%, but it'll give you some pretty good analysis, especially if you give it parameters of what you want analyzed and how you want analyzed. It'll follow your parameters and could give you some amazing outcomes from that. So yeah, it's free, so just use it. Is quite honestly what I say.
And just
Perfect.
another point to kind of build off of that is, and to give everybody a little bit of a tip that I love to give out, is tell the AI who it should be. It was something that I saw on a YouTube video one time very early on when I was learning how to do prompts. And this is more for ChatGPT, of course. But it was, tell it who you need it to be. Do you want to talk to Abraham Lincoln? Tell it that you want to talk to Abraham Lincoln about, how to negotiate and stuff like that, and have him give you tips. Also, have it ask you questions. That's one of my favorite things to have it do is, okay, this is what I'm trying to go for. Please ask me one question at a time, and until you have the clarification in order to, build out, a good briefing or something like that. That has always been a big, just a beneficial thing, because then you're not just making it think, like you're thinking it through, but it's helping you think. It's your assistant, right? And that's how you should look at it. It should be an assistant.
Perfect. This is great. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Yeah, because sorry, my computer rebooted here. But just before we move to the Q&A, Samantha, I know that you wanted to highlight a resource that CQ has created on those lines about AI, about guidelines and best practices. Could you talk a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. I kind of touched on it briefly. Like I said, Mitch Tallenfeld, Stephen Arthur, and Dana Hutton put together a task force with CQ in the CQ community and built out a best practices guide for marketing and enrollment on AI and how AI is changing higher education in this field. And so it really kind of puts together a lot of guidelines, has a great table of contents to it, so you can kind of jump to the sections that really impact you the most. You can find this guide on career.org under resources, AI best practices, and be able to download it straight from there. But it's a super powerful thing. Again, you can always throw it into AI and have it give you notes on it. But you get notes from the AI about the AI. But it is definitely a super powerful piece. I've seen a lot of presentations. You'll probably, if you're going out into the conference circuit, you might run across a couple of them. I know that I was just at FAPS, and Dana Hutton, Charlie Parker, and Rustom, Gary Thorup are all part of a panel and kind of walked through some of the points of what that guide has. So definitely a powerful resource, and it's free. So go ahead and get it downloaded.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great guide, actually, for anyone thinking about the next steps. Samantha, I'm not sure if you are able to share the link maybe in the chat to make it easier for people to download it.
I certainly can. I should have been more prepared for that, but that's a perfect idea.
Perfect. All right. So let's move into the audience Q&A. Please keep your questions coming in the Q&A box or the chat box. Let me just check here. Sorry, I'm using my phone now. Let me just check if we have more questions. Let's go with the first one. Can AI-driven nudges ever replace a counselor's personal guidance? I'm not sure who takes this one.
I'll take a shot. It can't replace it, but it could at least possibly outperform with regards to cadence and doing things at the right time, and all of that. But if you have your CRM correctly set and everything's in there, counselors outreach is generally going to be superior. It's better to get them on a call than AI, or whatever form you're using. The only drawback is a counselor's human, where AI might be able to do things quicker and instantly. So there's a balance there, but counselors are still better most of the time for outreach. That personal element is very important still.
Definitely. I would definitely second it.
Samantha, anything else? Sorry, by the way, I'm seeing the link here. Thank you so much for sharing this. Anything you want to add on this one, or you can move to the next question?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to replace them completely. It's definitely something where we have to have those moments where someone just needs a person to talk to. And that's what admissions reps are for. And so I feel like AI is going to give us more time to be able to have our admissions reps do that and connect more on a personal level by taking off that, those emails they always have to constantly do, the frequently asked questions they're constantly having to kind of file and fill-in, stuff like that. So it's definitely never going to completely eliminate that position. At least if we try, and really hope we don't, because robots are just not the same.
Yeah.
I want to see a robot laugh, actually. It'd be a little creepy, I feel like.
Perfect. And still on that same note, we have another one here asking, how can schools maintain authenticity when more outreach is machine generated? That's a good one, actually, for every industry, not just education. Who wants to take a stab at this one?
Go ahead,
Jump
Sterling. I
in.
think there's more in your boat.
Yeah, well, even though the outreach, it could be written by a machine, but human would oversee it. So the outreach is, being triggered from CRM that's coming out when people do whatever actions that trigger the outreach. But what you actually put in there, you could have dynamic variables in it. You could have collect extra information, but you still, at the end of the day, control the outreach. So you can make sure that it sounds authentic. A human is forgot their touch on it. AI would just be able to help create them quicker, maybe give you different iterations you could test or look at, apply some of the dynamic variables you're collecting to it. But when I use AI especially for email marketing or anything email related, I actually ask it to give me multiple iterations. So I won't just say, write me an email. I'll say, give me 3 emails and pick the one I like the most and then iterate from that one. So that's a great thing about AI is you can iterate over and over until you have something that looks and feels great. And then the final human element to do that touch up, and then it will be personal, will sound organic, and it's just now being triggered at different elements or different stages of admissions.
Perfect. Awesome. We have another one here. This is actually a very current topic. Talia is asking, should schools be optimizing their websites for AI crawling? I think there's a new term for this. Like I said, it's very new. They say instead of SEO, GEO, generative engine optimization. But do you guys feel like websites should be optimizing for AI crawling? I'm not even sure it's just a website or it should be outside, but any thoughts on this?
Yeah.
I would just say yes. Again, most of the time you don't have Google anymore. Like you ask a question to Google, if you still do that, you type it in and you automatically get Google's AI answer, right? So you don't even have to go into a blog article or anything like that. It pulls the information from the article and just plops it right in there on the page. It does have the link below it, but people don't actually have to go into the articles anymore. So it's definitely something that you want to optimize for, is to make sure that you have those points in there. Maybe starting to get a little more technical, but that's kind of my overview.
AI is becoming a big search engine now. It's taking away market share directly from Google. So more and more people are using it, and we're seeing it happen more and more with ourselves and our clients. People coming through AI and telling you like they put in the query to AI. One area that AI looks at, it looks at more than just the website though. So when you're doing SEO, like search engine optimization on your website, a lot of it is focused on your on-page content, your tags, like how fast your page loads and the people linking to you with anchor text and all the SEO elements. When it comes to actual AI optimization, it's more about what's out there about you. So your website is a big variable. It'll consume your website and all that. But if you put articles on reputable article submission sites, you have great blog posts, you have good content out there, that is what it consumes a lot of the time. And we've actually found a lot of success in going back to the old school strategy of article submissions. It used to be a big thing done in the early 2000s, and you'd submit articles for SEO because you link back to your website. And Google devalued it in 2012 with the Panda and Penguin updates it did in 2012 and 2013. But now it's becoming valuable for AI. So it's an old technique that's sort of coming back. The one thing you have to worry about though is don't create heavily AI done articles and submit them verbatim, because AI is smart at finding AI. So you want to actually you can use AI to guide you, of course, but you have to have that human element come in, make it sure it's a human written article when you submit it. And then that way, AI will come across it as an information source. And if it's talking about you and has all your queries in there as answering questions, then it will pull it as the source. And so we've seen a lot of success with that actually recently.
Perfect. We have a few more questions coming in here. Pedro is asking if do you all consider AI will ever replace the human touch with our audience? I think we already touched on this. I believe we're in agreement that AI is a powerful tool to help admissions teams handle scale, but empathy and human connection remain central to human decisions, like we discussed. The next one, how can AI help in retention? I think we briefly also discussed, but if you guys want to elaborate on this, I think it will be helpful as well.
I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what we've already touched on, but for retention, again, it's just to kind of help those directors of admissions and stuff kind of have a coach to help them figure out how to have hard conversations. That's definitely a place that I could see that would definitely be helpful in retention, is kind of if you haven't, you don't have that mentor to go to be like, hey, I have this difficult employee. I want to, talk with them about these things. And you always want to be empathetic and stuff like that. But how do I, approach it and stuff like that? That might be a good source to kind of sit there and ask it questions and have it ask you questions and play like the person. So that's something I would say is an interesting way to go about that.
Yeah, and I'd going in a completely different direction. I would look at the data behind it. So if you know completion rates and you know who retention rates, you could take all your students, and if you have data points on them for their attendance, actions taken prior to becoming a lead, what keywords they came through, any data you have on them, you could crunch those numbers and determine what are variables that would lead to someone dropping and how you can mitigate against them earlier. Or even the other way around is you can learn what are the success variables for people who have a high enrollment or completion rate, and then you could try to replicate those or get those variables to or touch points that happen upon the journey. So it'd be more just like analyzing that part of it using, because AI, that's one thing it's still really good at, and should be getting better, is analyzing data and giving you those data points and conclusions, and then you could then augment or make changes to support those people.
Perfect. Totally agree. And Sterling, I think we have time for one last question. And as you touched on the data points, we have this last one here asking, how reliable is AI in forecasting enrollment trends, and what risks should leaders watch for?
Well, it's as good as the data going in. Like, where is this enrollment data coming from? Where are the trends coming from? If you're talking about your individual school, there's different ways you can set up models to, try to see what the trends are going at. And yeah, it really depends on how granular the data is, where exactly you're pulling it from, how good it's all set up in your CRM. If you're just looking at yourself for your own trends, if you're looking industry wide, where are you getting that industry data from, and how much of there is there, and like how sophisticated is the data. One thing that I'm a big fan of, larger sample sizes. So you don't want to make conclusions off a small sample size of data. If you are using data, look at like 3 to 5 years of data to help build the next year trend. Don't just go off the last year, because you want to look at month over months and year over years from different angles. So yeah, it's all about, quite honestly, the data. The cleaner, more concise, the more granular the data you have, the better the outcome will be. That all being said, if you use AI to build this outcome for you, still look over it, make sure it's not doing nonsensical stuff. You didn't load so much data into it, it all starts hallucinating stuff and telling you. So you still need that human element, even when you're using it for all this forecasting. Make sure it makes sense what they're forecasting is actual real. Then do some stupid math to make a mistake in the math somewhere and forget a decimal place, and all of a sudden you're forecasting 10 times. So that's still important, but it could get you 95% of the way there, and you just have to do the final little cleanup.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and one other note I'd like to add, because we've talked a lot about the data and putting data into AI systems. One thing you want to be very, very conscious of, and this again comes from sitting down as a team and discussing how to use it properly, and the AI guidelines will actually help you a lot with that, is student privacy. Making sure that you're not putting anything in there that you aren't allowed to share. I know there's a lot of regulations. I'm not an expert at that, but I know there's a lot of regulations on student email addresses and student information, that it should not be uncontrolled. And AI learns from the data that you give it. So just understand that even you just don't want that to go out anywhere else. So.
Perfect. No, this is great. Okay, I think we cover all the questions from the audience, and I think we're at time here. But again, I want to thank you both, Sterling and Samantha, so much for such a thoughtful discussion, and also thank you everyone who joined us today. So just to recap, I think the conclusion of the discussion is that, as we talked about, AI is a really powerful tool to help admissions teams handle scale, but the institutions that thrive will be the ones that, according to our discussion today, that design systems where AI and people work together, that preserve that human touch. So again, thanks so much for joining, and we will see you next time, and stay tuned for the recording. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.